I really believe that quality is better than quantity, and sometimes quality is quantity. So, my little brother recently watched my videos, and his feedback was that I look like a wealthy black princess or something. So yeah, that's of course in translation. It's my interpretation, but I want to say that that's literally a goal. Like, although I'm not rich and I'm not wealthy yet, um, I live for that black wealthy energy, and I want to encourage everyone to live their best life and be as close as they can to the person they want to become. So for me, I want to be a black princess, and I'll make sure that my energy matches my goal. Now, I don't come from wealth. I don't come from a rich background. As you maybe know if you followed me for a while. But I definitely think my mom raised me right, because she made sure that whatever I had in my wardrobe, I would never look like less. Like, she made sure I knew that I had to take care of things, and that, it didn't matter the price we paid for our garments, we would always look right. So, learning from that, when I finally got my own place and, my freedom and all that, I applied those rules, but I also decided that I would spend money the way I wanted now. So, I definitely changed my habits in many ways. And I think that over the past 5 years, I finally put together a wardrobe that really looks like me, and I don't think I paid that much for that compared to what is the actual value probably of what I have. So I wanted to share my tips with you today, and I wanted to help you living your best princess life. I know that not everything is about looks, but I also like pretty things. I'm a Libra. Whatever, let's start. So my first tip for you would be, it might sound obvious, but it would be to take proper care of your garments. So what I mean by that is that I realized that people don't actually know much about fabrics. They don't really know about how to care for different types of fabric and how to make something last a long time. And fast fashion has a lot to do with that, because it made clothing look very replaceable and worthless. But I believe that we should always care for what we buy, whatever we buy, because what you own should reflect your energy and should speak to you. And I don't know, I think we should treat everything properly, whether it's human or objects. So, for example, some outfits, some garments do not need to be washed after every wear. Some of them you can literally wear 5 times and wash them then. Of course, you have to still, give them some space to breathe, because you don't want to have microbes basically multiplicating in your closet. But not everything needs to be cared for the same way. So while you have some garments that you need to wash every time you wear them, some you really don't. And it's important to also know what should go into the washer, what should be washed by hand, and how to do these things, like what products to use and how much you should put. All those things, it might sound like a lot when I say it like that, but it's actually just little habits, and it's not hard at all, because at the end of the day, well, you're not gonna buy 100 different detergents, right? You should at least have something that for delicate stuff and something for like whatever random other stuff that you have. But for me, for example, I basically try to wash everything with delicate wash because I don't want to have to think about it, and I prefer less harsh, like more gentle products rather than having to buy two different products and not, make any mistake. So there's that. Personally, I wash everything by hands. I mean, not everything, but most of my things, I prefer washing them by hands because I like having control over the results of washing my clothing. I don't like surprises. But I know not everyone can do that. So if you can't, at least make sure you choose the right cycle in the washer and don't just put everything blindly into it. Watch your colors, use, color catchers, things like that. And if you have to also put something in the dryer, make sure it's something that should go there, because not everything also will really react well to the dryer. I don't actually like ironing my stuff, but I found something way better that literally changed my life, and that's steaming. Like, I love a good steamer. I basically travel with my steamer. I keep it close. I love it. This thing is so efficient, so useful, and so quick. Like, literally, I use it now for literally anything, and it's also good because it will also remove some bacteria due to the heat. So I love steamers. Not saying that you should wash your stuff with a steamer. Wash your stuff, but a steamer is such a good thing to have, especially if you don't iron. Like, it doesn't need to be a super expensive steamer, but invest in yourself. Like, this is gonna make your life so much easier. And another thing I discovered is this little dust remover, or I'd say fabric residue remover. So you have some that will use batteries, and sometimes those can be very efficient, but you need to be careful so that they don't damage your fabric. You also have those that don't need batteries at all, but these ones, I'd say, not everything is the same quality. So just read the reviews if you can and buy something that's gonna be gentle but very efficient as well, because your sweaters, for example, mostly things like made of wool or this type of fabric, they will create little residue as your fabric interacts with everything else, and at some point things look old because of that. But just with this kind of dust remover, I really don't know how to call that, it will definitely help making everything look new again. So you can also use the ones that are just tape that you roll over your clothing, but sometimes these are not so efficient. It depends on the garment, basically. But yeah, so this would be my first big tip, and this is very important. I'd say it's maybe the most important tip. If, like me, you cannot afford luxury garments at full price, one thing you can do is actually to look for sample sales. Sample sales are basically the moment of the year, usually happens once or maximum twice a year, depending on the designer, where you can get their garments for way cheaper, because these garments that they will sell would not pass quality control, let's say. So it can be because they've been washed before, they've been worn by other models. Can also be one-of-a-kind garments that never made it into production. They're not perfect enough to be sold at regular price. So basically, these sales are perfect for someone like me, for example, because usually the garments are still in very, very good condition. They're still very, very good looking. Sometimes they look new, sometimes they look perfect. The something that will bother the designer might not even bother you. Like sometimes I don't know why the garment is on sale. It looks good to me, it looks perfect, but something is wrong and I don't know what, and it's perfect that I don't know. So then you can get, let's say, a top that would cost you $100 for like $30, or things like that. It's very, very interesting. So I usually take advantage of these sales if it's a designer I was looking to buy from for a long time and I can absolutely not afford otherwise. So my third advice is quite similar. I would suggest that you start looking for thrift shops. So I love them because I think it's always better for the environment and it's always better for your budget to look for stuff that are not necessarily new. And sometimes in these stores, things are not even used. Like some people just buy stuff and never use them, and then these things happen to be in a thrift shop at some point. So you can find treasures. Like I found beautiful clothing made in Europe, made in France, in Italy, 100% natural fibers, wool, silk. I found all those things in thrift shop, and sometimes for like $20. Like honestly, when I go to a thrift shop, I don't really expect to pay more than $30 for whatever I'm gonna buy, and I usually manage to not spend more than $20 per piece. And those pieces look as good as new. Like literally nobody knows when I'm outside that these things were not new when I got them, and they look new when I take care of them. So then they just keep looking new and perfect. And I think this is definitely something you should look into if you have time, because it can be time consuming, but it's very rewarding and it's very cool because whatever you will find usually is unique and is not produced anymore. So it's it's a way to have a very unique item for cheap, and sometimes something that would be even better quality than what you could find in a regular store, because right now I feel that quality is not necessarily the concern of a lot of stores. It's just fast fashion. My fourth advice would be to buy secondhand. So I'm not telling you to just buy, to just get stuff from other people like randomly like that. I personally don't do this. But what I do is that if my favorite bloggers would sell their own stuff, usually I look into whatever they have to offer, because bloggers usually, as a blogger, I know that I have so many things, I receive so many things, so I don't really get to wear out my items, because I literally have enough lingerie to not wear the same thing for a few months. And that's not really, that's not a goal. Like, don't do this. It just takes a lot of space. But because of what I do, that's just what happens. I receive a lot of things, and those things, I try them out for a period to make sure I give you accurate information. But then once I've tried the product, I have so many other stuff that my things don't get damaged. So if I sell something, I will sell something that looks good and has still a lot of life to it. So look for bloggers that sell stuff. I think most of the time it's very good value, because they will sell things for very cheap because you got it for free or stuff like that, and the thing can be of high value, or at least way more than the price you will pay for it. So I only have 2 more pieces of advice for you. Hopefully this video is not too long, but I hope it's helpful too. The first one would be to learn how to style and accessorize. So what I mean by that is that I noticed that with fast fashion, it seems that every time you see an influencer wearing an outfit, the outfit is like one piece of cloth by itself. Like as if once you've seen this outfit, you should not see any of these pieces again in their feet. I also know people that cannot wear the same outfit twice to go to the club. Well, that's one way to live your life, but that's not sustainable, that's not good for the environment, that's not good for your wallet. So, what I suggest is that you learn how to make every pieces that you buy work with what you already have. So when you go to a store, if you see something that you like, make sure it's gonna work with something else in your wardrobe. It should not be a single independent piece of clothing that doesn't have the shoes to match, the hat to match, the bag, the purse to match it. No, like we don't want that. Simply because, well, it just doesn't make sense financially, and simply you might lose your money because this thing is gonna sit in your wardrobe forever, and you might forget about it and never wear it. So it's very important that you know exactly what you're gonna do with this piece of garment before you spend money on it. And honestly, there are many ways to style everything. Like even when I buy a silk dress, like a short one, I make sure I can use it as a top as well. It doesn't have to be a dress only, because during the winter, there is no way I'm gonna wear a silk slip by itself. So I either use it under other dresses to add layers, or I can wear it as a top under, a white pair of pants or a skirt. There are many ways you can wear your stuff, and don't limit yourself. Like, who cares if you're wearing the same thing, honestly? Like, this should not be something you'd be ashamed of, because you're gonna buy quality stuff and they will look good every day in different ways. So then people should not make you feel ashamed because they've seen your sweater twice. And this way, your investment is gonna be so worth it, because through the years, this one piece, you're gonna be able to wear it in so many different ways. And when you're gonna buy something else, maybe this is gonna be another way that you will be able to wear that old thing, because you're gonna mix and match. So yeah, definitely, that's one of my advice. That's something I do myself. And if you look at my Instagram feed, you might see the same pieces worn in different ways, and I love that. Last but not least, buy quality over quantity. And that's, something everybody knows about, but it seems harder to apply in our everyday life nowadays because, fast fashion and money issues, all those things. For sure, we don't always have money to splurge on a very expensive item. But what I can tell you is that when you buy from smaller designers, sometimes they will give you the option to pay in several times. So it can be a very good option if you have patience, and if it's not something you immediately need. You can pay in several times, and this way you don't even have to wait for a discount. You can actually support someone that you trust and get the exact thing that you wanted, instead of looking for a cheaper option that will not necessarily be what you actually wanted. So there is that. You can buy quality sometimes, not for necessarily cheaper, but in a more convenient way. And I'm telling you, like in Creole, we have this idiom saying that cheaper things cost more. And I think it's very wise, because, well, when you buy something for cheap, you might have not only to pay the price several times, because it might not last so long, depending on the quality, independently on how you treat it, because sometimes if something is very, very cheap, even if you try to take care of it, it's gonna break. But also the emotional burden of not being sure your thing is gonna last, because if you buy something and it breaks at a very inappropriate moment, you're gonna regret it. Or if you just want to be able to trust whatever you bring into your house. So if you're gonna spend $20 on something but have to pay for it 3 times because it's not reliable, you maybe should buy the $60 thing. It's just how I think. So I understand sometimes we don't have the $60 ready to pay for something, or even $200 or more, of course, because things are expensive and we don't necessarily have a lot of money nowadays. But there is a way always to get something of quality with less money, I'd say. So for sure, at the end of the day, if you buy in several times, you're paying the same price, but you get something that you will value. And I really believe, with all the things I told you, what I wanted you to remember is that you need to take care of whatever you have, and love those things, because this way they will treat you good as well, and they will make you look good, and they will bring you joy. So yeah. That's my 2 cents on that. I really believe that quality is better than quantity, and sometimes quality is quantity, in the sense that it's gonna last for longer, it's gonna look good longer, and it's gonna make you feel way better. So yeah. That's just my opinion. Tell me what you think of it, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.